I've been hiking the Smokies since I was a kid, but last June, I went solo for the first time in years. Needed space after my mom's funeral. I picked the Deep Creek Loop near Bryson City. Familiar, well-marked, and quiet on a Tuesday morning. Around 10 a.m., I hit a confusing fork where an unofficial trail split off toward an old ranger outpost. To be safe, I tied my brightest trail marker, a neon orange bandana I'd had since college, around a low branch at eye level. I always use a simple overhand knot. It's quick, secure, and easy to untie later. I snapped a mental note of it, orange flash against green leaves, not snug, but loose enough to pull free with one tug. Then I headed deeper, camera in hand, trying to lose myself in ferns and bird call instead of grief. I came back to the fork around 3 p.m., sweaty and sun-drunk, ready to retrace my steps. But the branch was bare. No bandana. Not torn, not fallen, just gone. I checked the ground, pushed aside leaves, even looked up in case a squirrel had dragged it off. Nothing. Weird, sure, but I figured maybe a hiker thought it was litter and took it down. Annoying, but not alarming. I finished the loop and drove back to my trailhead parking spot, exhausted. That's when I saw it. My orange bandana, tied tightly around the side mirror of my Jeep. Not tossed in the seat, not stuffed under a wiper. Tied. And the knot? It wasn't mine. It was a double half hitch. Tight, intricate, the kind scouts use to secure loads. I don't know how to tie that, and I never would have used it on a trail marker. My hands shook as I pulled it off. The fabric was dry, clean, and ice cold, like it had been sitting in a fridge. I tossed the bandana in my glove compartment and drove home, telling myself it was just some weird coincidence. Maybe a park volunteer reusing trail markers or a kid playing pranks. But that night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that knot. Precise, deliberate, wrong. The next morning, I decided to hike the same loop again, partly to clear my head, partly to prove to myself I was overreacting. I parked in the same spot, double-checked my gear, and started up the trail. About halfway in, near a bend where the creek gurgles under mossy rocks, I froze. There it was, my orange bandana, tied to a dogwood branch at chest height, exactly where I'd left it the day before. But now it was soaked. Not with rain. The sky was clear, but with something thick and dark that dripped slowly onto the ferns below. It smelled sharp and metallic, like pennies left in the rain, copper, blood. I didn't touch it, didn't even get close, but I recognized the knot again, the same double half hitch, pulled tight like it was meant to last. My stomach twisted. This wasn't a prank. Someone had taken my marker, returned it to my car with a stranger's knot, then brought it back to the trail drenched in blood. And they'd done it overnight, without leaving footprints, without a sound. I backed away slowly, heart slamming, and turned around to leave. But as I walked back toward the trailhead, I kept glancing over my shoulder, half expecting to see someone watching from the trees. The woods felt different now, not peaceful, but occupied, like I wasn't the only one walking them, and worse, like I never really had been. I reported it to the ranger station that afternoon. voice trembling as I described the bandana, the knot, the smell. The ranger, a woman with tired eyes and a Smokies patch on her sleeve, listened quietly, then asked if I'd seen anyone else on the trail. I hadn't. She checked the log. No permits issued for that section in 3 days. She said, "Animals don't tie knots. But people who've been out here too long, sometimes they start marking things that aren't theirs." She wouldn't say more, just handed me a card with a missing persons hotline. That night, I watched the bandana in the sink. The dark stain came out pink-tinged, swirling down the drain. Like diluted rust. I threw it away. But 2 mornings later, I found it again, folded neatly on my windshield, still damp, tied with the same double half-hitch. This time, tucked in the knot, was a single white feather, speckled with the same coppery residue. I haven't hiked since. I sold my gear, donated my boots, and blocked the Smokies from my Maps app. But last week, while cleaning out my trunk, I found a scrap of orange fabric caught in the spare tire well. Too small to be the whole bandana, but unmistakably mine. And tied around it, a fresh double half-hitch. I don't know who or what is using my marker to track me. Maybe it's someone who's been lost in those woods so long they've forgotten their own name. Or maybe it's something that never had one. But I do know this. Trail markers are supposed to guide you back. Mine is guiding something else, straight to me. And if you ever see a bright orange bandana tied with a knot you don't recognize, don't pull it loose. Just walk away, because whatever tied it, it's already watching you decide. Story 2. I was house-sitting my buddy Ray's cabin near Little Switzerland, North Carolina last October. Just a week-long solo stint while he sorted out some family stuff in Asheville. The place was rustic but cozy. Wood stove, deer antlers over the fireplace, and a wraparound porch that overlooked a misty hollow. Before he left, Ray gave me a quick tour and said, "Oh, and don't mind old Buck. He's the neighbor's dog, lives down the ridge a ways. Comes by sometimes, especially at dusk. Just shoo him off if he gets too close." I nodded, thinking it was no big deal. I like dogs. Used to have one myself. That first evening, I grilled a burger on the porch, watched the sun sink behind the pines, and figured Buck would show up wagging and hopeful for scraps. He did show up, but not like any dog I ever seen. Around 6:30 p.m., as the last light bled out of the sky, I noticed a shape standing at the tree line. Black, medium-sized, ears pricked, tail perfectly still. No panting, no tail wag, just watching. I called out, "Hey, Buck, you hungry?" He didn't move, didn't bark, didn't even blink. I stepped closer, and that's when I felt it, a chill that had nothing to do with the mountain air. His eyes were wrong, not glowing in the twilight like a normal dog's would, not reflecting the porch light at all. Just 2 flat, dark voids that seemed to swallow the light around them. I backed up slowly, and he turned and vanished into the woods without a sound. No crack of twigs, no rustle, like he'd never been there at all. After that, I kept the porch light on all night and double-locked the doors, even though Ray had laughed at the idea of locks out here in the middle of nowhere. The next evening, I made a grilled cheese and left it on the kitchen counter while I stoked the wood stove. When I came back 2 minutes later, the sandwich was gone. Well, half of it was. The other half sat neatly on the plate, crusts untouched, cheese still warm. And right beside it, pressed into the flour I'd spilled while cooking, were 3 muddy paw prints, not on the floor, on the countertop, like whatever made them had jumped up, taken a bite, and stepped back down without knocking over a single spice jar. My breath stopped. I checked the windows, all latched, the back door still locked, no sign of forced entry. But the prints were fresh, glistening with wet clay from the creek bed behind the cabin. Buck didn't have access, and even if he did, dogs don't eat sandwiches, and they sure as hell don't climb counters like cats. That night, I slept with Ray's old hunting knife on the nightstand. Around 2 a.m., I woke to a soft tap, tap, tap on the bedroom window. Not frantic, not curious, rhythmic, deliberate, like knuckles or claws testing the glass. I didn't move, didn't breathe. Through the sliver of moonlight, I saw it. That same black shape, standing on its hind legs, front paws resting on the sill, those empty eyes fixed on me. Through the pain. No fog on the glass, no steam from breath, just silence and that unblinking stare. I stayed frozen until dawn, listening to the occasional scrape of something circling the cabin, light, precise, never stumbling. By morning, the paw prints on the counter were gone, wiped clean. But the plate was still there, half a grilled cheese rotting in the sun, and on the windowsill outside, a single tuft of coarse black fur, damp with dew, or something else. I called Ray that morning, voice shaking, and told him everything. There was a long pause. Then he said, quiet and grim, "That's not Buck." He explained that the neighbor's dog, a scrappy mutt named Buck, had been hit by a logging truck 2 winters ago. "Buried him myself near the creek," Ray said. "You sure it looked like a dog?" I didn't answer, because deep down I knew. It moved like a dog, stood like a dog, but it watched like something that had learned how to mimic one. That afternoon, I packed my bag, ready to leave early. But when I opened the front door, I found a fresh set of paw prints leading from the porch to my car, and then stopping. No return trail. Like whatever made them had vanished the moment it reached my tires. I drove out fast, gravel flying, and didn't look back once. I haven't been near that cabin since. Ray says he's never had another house sitter. But last month, while cleaning out my hiking boots, I found a clump of wet black mud caked in the tread, smelling faintly of creek water and something sour like old meat. And last night, as I washed dishes, I caught a flicker of movement in the kitchen window. Just for a second, a shadow low to the ground, standing perfectly still under the streetlight. When I turned, there was nothing. But on the sill, barely visible, was a single muddy print, too large for a raccoon, too precise for a stray. I haven't eaten a sandwich since, and I never leave food out, because I know now it's not looking for scraps. It's reminding me it knows where I live. And if you ever hear a dog that doesn't bark or pant, don't assume it's lost. Assume it's waiting, and it already knows your name. Story 3. It was supposed to be a simple day hike. Just me, my pack, and the Art Loeb Trail near Black Balsam Knob. I'd done it a dozen times since moving to Asheville, but this past April, I got caught in a freak thunderstorm around 3 p.m. The sky went black like a switch flipped, and rain came down so hard I could barely see 10 feet ahead. Lightning cracked so close it made my fillings hum. I knew there was an old ranger outpost near Deep Gap, abandoned since the 90s, but still standing. So I cut cross-country through the rhododendron thickets, soaked and shivering, just praying the roof hadn't caved in. When I finally reached it, the door was slightly ajar, hinges rested but holding. Inside smelled like mildew, wet paper, and something faintly sweet, like old tobacco. And right in the center of the dusty desk sat a thick, leather-bound ledger, open to a fresh page. I toweled off my face and flipped through it out of habit, part curiosity, part hoping for trail notes or emergency contacts. Most entries were decades old. Weather logs, bear sightings, supply orders. But the last one stopped me cold. In neat, slanted handwriting that looked exactly like mine, same loop on the Y, same way I cross my T's, it read, "If you're reading this, don't trust the man who offers you a ride. He's not from here." Below it, signed, Ethan Cole, my name, and dated April 11th, 2025. Yesterday. My stomach dropped. I'd never been to this outpost before, never even knew the exact location until today, and I sure as hell hadn't written that. My hands started shaking. I checked the pages before and after, blank. No smudges, no indentations from previous writing, just that one entry, crisp and deliberate, like it had been waiting for me to show up and read it. I backed away from the desk like the book might bite. My name, my handwriting, a warning about a ride I hadn't been offered yet. The rain hammered the roof like it was trying to drown out my thoughts, but all I could hear was my own pulse in my ears. I checked my phone, no signal, of course, but the date confirmed it. Today was April 12th, so unless someone had forged my handwriting with impossible precision, that entry shouldn't exist. I flipped the ledger over looking for clues, watermarks, a ranger stamp, anything. Nothing, just cracked leather and the smell of time. Then I noticed something else. The ink wasn't fully dry. When I brushed my thumb near the signature, it smudged slightly. Dark blue, the same Pilot G2 I always use. I hadn't brought a pen with me. I never do on day hikes, so how? I stayed in the outpost until the storm passed, pacing like a caged animal, glancing out the grimy windows every 30 seconds. When the rain finally eased to a drizzle, I shouldered my pack and stepped outside, desperate to put miles between me and that book. The trailhead was only 2 miles down, but the path was slick and my boots kept slipping on wet roots. About halfway, I heard an engine, a beat-up Ford pickup, forest green, mud-caked, rolled to a stop on the gravel access road just ahead. The window rolled down and a man leaned out, late 50s, flannel shirt, kind eyes. He said, "You look soaked, son. Hop in. I'll take you to your car." My blood turned to ice. The words from the ledger echoed in my skull. "Don't trust the man who offers you a ride. He's not from here." I forced a smile and said, "Thanks, I'm almost there." He nodded, but didn't drive off. Just watched me walk past, his gaze heavy on my back like a hand pressing between my shoulders. I didn't look back until I reached the trailhead parking lot. The truck was gone. No tire tracks in the mud, no dust cloud down the road, just silence and the drip of water from the trees. My car was exactly where I'd left it, but as I walked closer, I saw something tucked under the windshield wiper. A folded piece of yellowed paper, the same texture as the ledger pages. My hands trembled as I opened it. In that same handwriting, my handwriting, it said, "You did the right thing, but he'll try again. Next time, he'll look like someone you know." No signature, no date, just those words and the faint smell of old tobacco clinging to the paper. I drove home with the doors locked and the windows up, checking every mirror like I expected to see him behind me. I went back a week later with 2 friends, determined to prove it was stress or a prank. But the outpost was gone. Not abandoned, gone. The foundation was overgrown,
The roof collapsed inward like it had decades ago, and the desk was rotted to splinters. No ledger, no book, nothing. The ranger station had no record of any recent visitors to that site, and when I described the man in the truck, the ranger went pale. Green Ford? Flannel? That sounds like Harlan Briggs. But he died in '09. Car went off Devil's Elbow in that exact truck. I never hiked alone again. And now, whenever someone offers me a ride, especially if they look familiar, I say no. Because I know now, the warning wasn't from me, it was for me. And whoever wrote it is still watching to see if I listen.